Morning. I want to share something just from mind. There's no document in front of me. Just uh, pull this from memory. Yahuah said that from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So I'll put it from the heart. If you go back into the old scriptures and start looking at the places where it says Son of Man, we're going to see something that maybe hasn't been quite recognized. I've never heard it, but I want to encourage everyone to go look at this. Where we see Joshua's name, Yehoshua, means Yah is salvation, or salvation of Yah. And Joshua, son of Nun. So the Nun is the seed. So salvation, the son of the seed. So we see a picture of Messiah right there with that. And then when we start seeing these phrases, Son of Man, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the specific Son of Man right together, but in that order, you start seeing through them scriptures, and it gets really evident when you read through the book of Ezekiel. And I've done a search on eSword and just put Son of Man in there, so it brings up these verses that has that phrase Son of Man and or contains the words Son of Man. Some places they're broken up. But anyway, when we get to the book of Ezekiel, you'll see over and over and over that this phrase Son of Man is used. And reading them verses, I start seeing the same idea given to Ezekiel as what Yeshua was speaking during his time here when he was preaching to the multitudes or speaking against the Pharisees, whatever. But there's a picture there of the Father giving the instructions to the Son. Son of Man, have you seen? Son of Man, speak to the children of Israel. This gets to be really clear that the instructions are there, and there's a picture of Messiah. And so each scroll, each time the prophet was given a vision and wrote these visions down, they were written on whatever paper form they had, but it was rolled up on a scroll. So it was narrow strips, and they were rolled up. And I want you to see the idea of these being written on narrow strips. It gets important because we're going to see this throughout Scripture. So the scroll, the words are rolled up. Okay, we know that Yahushua Messiah was the Word made flesh, and the word flesh is basar, the root basarah, which is the glad news, glad tidings. So he was the Word made flesh. So that word was rolled up on these scrolls, and it was the basarah, it was the glad news, but it was preserved in them scrolls. And we have the very word today. We call it our King James Bible. We call it whatever translation of Scripture that we choose to read, but we have the word preserved still. But if we can vision that in the roll instead of in a book like we have today, this will make a little bit more sense. So we have rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls of Scripture all the way up to Matthew. And then what was taught from Matthew through Revelation was taught from them rolls. So when the Messiah was born, it says he was wrapped in swaddling clothes. Well, swaddling clothes was narrow strips of cloth. So we have again the picture of the Word being wrapped, okay, this infant being wrapped with narrow strips of cloth. So them scrolls were written, at the time they were written, they were each in their infancy, the birth, if you will. The idea that was given from Yahuah to the prophets was written down, recorded, and rolled up. So at the birth, the child is wrapped with these scrolls, the Word. And so then we have a picture of Messiah, the newborn king, wrapped with these narrow strips of cloth, and that would be inclusive of all of the scrolls. And then there's no scripture where anybody unwrapped the child to see the child. So let's unwrap the child and see the child. Let's open them scrolls. So when the Christian theologies have said that the law was done away with at the cross, and so when Messiah was buried, his body was wrapped again, and spices were put in there. So we see the picture of the scrolls again wrapped up around his body. But then when Mary and John and Peter went to the sepulcher and looked in, what they seen was his garments lying in a heap, and only his face covering was laying rolled together. So there's one scroll, his face covering was still rolled up, and the rest was in a heap. Well, our scriptures, through false doctrines, through false scribes, through whatever, has become that heap, his garments, our covering is the Word, but it's up to each of us to take that heap of scrolls and spread them out and start making sense of them, and to start treating them with kindness and with love, and putting them in order, and learning to be obedient to them, learning to discern what's written in one scroll and another scroll, line upon line, line upon line, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little. So the precept, that word means commands. So command upon command. So we see the commands written in various places, and we need 2 or 3 witnesses to establish. Another place in Scripture it says to bring forth from your treasure both old and new. So those teachings should contain things from the old scrolls and the new scrolls, the Old Testament and the New Testament. So his body being wrapped up with them scrolls, or being wrapped at his burial, and then when they went to the sepulcher, there's his garment left for us, and that's our engagement gift, if you will. And if you take the word sepulcher in the Greek, go into Bible Hub and start doing a word search on every word that is attached to sepulcher. I've done a document on it, and I'm not going to open that up and go through it all. But if you go down the rabbit trail to the end of every one of them words that's connected to that sepulcher, which means memory. So they went back to the memory of Messiah. They remembered him intently, purposefully, not accidentally. So they go back into his memory, and so you chase down that rabbit hole through them root word searches, and you're going to find a word, and it says engagement gift. So he left his garments there in his memory as our engagement gift. So when we take them words and take the scrolls and we start understanding them, this is what it means to be married to Yeshua. And if we go clear back to Genesis 1, okay, and verse 116, chapter 1, verse 16, 14 through 16, starts talking about the lights set in the firmament, and they were there for signs and for seasons. And the word seasons, it doesn't even lend it to the seasons like we think of them today, as far as the annual seasons of spring, summer, winter, and fall, but it's moed, and it's appointed times. And you go to the root word of moed and find the word yad, and in that it says to betroth, but it's the appointed times. So then again, we see the picture of keeping the appointed times is attached to betrothal. So some say, well, the proper calendar, the time's not important. And okay, if it's not important to you, that's your business, but it's important to me. And the only way that I can discern that calendar is to search that out at the beginning of every year by the sign given, the sign of Abib, when that star lines up with the moon every year, and rules with the moon through that night. Then sunrise, the sun witnessing the moon going down with that star, we see the mark of the new year, and we count from that day, the 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th, as our Sabbaths, and we wait for the sign of the new moon again, bringing us into another count. Recognize the new moon, it's a set apart day, and then we go the 8th, 15th, 29th, 22nd, 29th, and each new moon, as the moon rules the night and the sun witnesses the moon going down, as the moon has ruled the night, that's the beginning of each new month. And so if I would properly say the new year is brought in by the moon of Abib, the beginning of moons, and there's many out there that follow a different calendar calculation, and they start their day on the day of the equinox. And for all of you that see this video and challenge that, I'm not about making an argument. I'm not about getting in your face about it, but ask yourself, are those that are teaching you to follow that calendar, do they tell you when to start your year, or do they show you something that you can visually see to know when your year begins? If they're not, then question this. Are they looking to a sign that comes directly from the Vatican, from the obelisk that casts its shadow on the ground, or from NASA that tells you when to start your year? Okay? Because I can go out year after year, night after night, I can witness the Star of Abib and watch it as it approaches its place throughout the year, as it's coming back into alignment with the moon to give the sign of that first day. Sun, moon, and stars. So watch for that. I'll put my email again in the description or in the comments, and you can contact if you want more information. You've got the scrolls, okay? I use the King James Bible, but I'm not satisfied with that, okay? We all have the same scriptures. If we'll go back to the Strongs and search out the words that are there, okay? The word eat in Scripture, you go look that word up, you're going to find 45 or 49 different numbers for the word eat. Okay, so when I done that search, I included eat, devour, consume. So you're going to find 49 different words. So if you want to say that eat means this, you got a lot of research to do for that discernment. This is important. Time is short. Okay, there's a division coming, and we need to be prepared. We need to have on that garment, which is the word. And Joshua, or Judges, I think it's chapter 1, verse 8, he commands Joshua, he says, see that this Torah never departs from your mouth. Okay, your English translation will probably say, see that this law never departs from your mouth. Well, the word is Torah, and it means instructions. Okay, so if you want to put yourself under the law and feel oppressed by doing that, I'm sorry. I choose to put myself under the Torah, which is the instructions of Yahuah, and I'm not oppressed in doing that. It's our schoolmaster. He is our schoolmaster. The disciples called him master, teacher. So he's the Word made flesh. He's our teacher, and we can only find that if we go into the Word and learn to discern. Guess I'm done rambling. There's a division coming, and it's coming soon. And it's not going to matter. Your carnal family is not going to decide that division for you. Things that are coming in this world, the powers that be, they're not going to care about you and your children being united and content together. And Yahuah, when he divides, he's not going to care who's on what side. Those that have followed his commands are going to be those bearing his mark. He said that his Sabbath is his mark. So what other mark might there be? Well, it could possibly be that another Sabbath would be a different mark. The things they've done to us through the Pope, through Rome, is disgusting. The word weak comes from the same root word as vicar, okay, and that means in the stead of. Vicar means in the stead of. It's a replacement. And the days of the week that they've given us are all the names of Babylonian gods, Greek gods. So when you say the name of the week, you are declaring the name. Simply like Thursday is Thor's Day. What day of the week is it? It's Thor's Day. So Thor is in the stead of Yahuah when we proclaim them names. So when it says in Psalms, teach us to number our days and bring our hearts to wisdom, it's wise to not use the names of them Babylonian deities. Okay? First month of the year is January, named after their god Janus. So you can say they don't matter. Well, then they don't matter to you. They matter to me. And if I didn't think that some of you had a discernment that it matters, I wouldn't take the time to put up the video. But it's a warning. It's time to get ourselves wrapped with the garments, and the obedient are called the righteous, and the white garments is the righteousness of the saints. So I hope that when the day comes of division, that I'm found with that white garment. and they will be known by their fruits. So I hope that I have the fruit of the Spirit, and that I don't have that pharisaical place that I'm going to try to impose the law upon someone like the Pharisees did and still do to this day, but rather just declare it, share it, say what it is, and then it's up to each of us to discern. But it's there in our book, and we need to take the time to search every word, because the English translation, it can use one English word that is so out of place. We don't know what Greek word or Hebrew word is there unless we go search it out. Whatever words are given in the Strong's Concordance, go search them words in word etymology. Some of them didn't exist until the 16th, 17th century. And some of these newer translations of scriptures, if you want to call them scriptures, every one of them, including the KJV, has a copyright in it. And whoever established that copyright says that they have the right to what's inside it, that it's their words. They have a right to the publication, and that you can't copy it without their permission. So they've hijacked the word of Yahuah. But we can go get it, and they can't hijack that, because we can search it out and go back into word etymology and find out what they've changed, where they've deceived us, and we can find the truth. So before the day of separation comes, in the book of Joshua, before the flood, Yahuah caused all the righteous to perish, so they didn't have to see the wickedness that was coming upon the world. And there may be soon at hand another terrible time coming upon the earth, and things that we don't want to look upon, and people just want to bury their head in the sand. And there's even warnings about ostriches in the scripture, about people burying their head in the sand, or burying their eggs in the sand, where they can come back and run over them and not even know where they're at. So, discernment. May Yah be with you all, keep you all, and have a love for the truth. Shalom.